In this video we're going to look at the selection process, and in particular we're going to look at assessment centres. Now this video is one of 10 in this class, so it's very important that you look at the other videos as well. So to start, assessment centres. Well, these are common nowadays in graduate recruitment. Companies tend to use assessment centres quite a lot for the selection of graduates. So it's important that graduates understand the nature of assessment centres, and also that there's wide understanding amongst employers and the graduates, the candidates, of the services that can be provided by the assessment centres and how the assessment centres go about their work. The process includes assessing a group of candidates by using a set of competencies related to the job that's on offer. So the assessment centre looks at the job or the jobs or the positions that are on offer and sees the requirements of those positions, of those particular jobs. What are the requirements? And then sets about assessing candidates regarding their skills, their competencies, their intelligence, their personality, and so on, to see if they are suitable for employment. The tasks outlined must be relevant to the job and provide necessary feedback to the organisation regarding the candidate's ability. So it's very important that the organisation gets some feedback, and also that the activities that are undertaken during the assessment centre activities, that these are related to the job, related to what the company wants. Now, generally speaking, by the way, assessment centres tend to be hotels or specialist centres that have been set up with hotel type functions, and perhaps the candidates are asked to stay for a couple of nights and engage in various activities over perhaps a weekend or over a few days. So it's not normally a very quick fix. This one takes time, and the candidates have to spend time with other candidates who are applying for the same positions perhaps, and be assessed by the staff at the assessment centre. So it is a more protracted procedure than simply interviews or something quite quick. Assessment centres were developed as a means to allow candidates to communicate their abilities to employers. Well, that's one way of putting it. The other way of putting it is it also enables the employers to observe the candidates and to observe the candidates' strengths and weaknesses, and in particular in the context of the type of work that they will be expected to undertake. So typical tasks involved in assessment centres. Well, candidates may be put through various tasks. They might have to work as individuals on particular topics, or they could alternatively work in groups to see how they relate to their colleagues and leadership styles and their particular function within the group. There can be written tests and psychological testing. These are quite common. Oral presentations, where they're asked to present some data or present some findings or present a paper on a particular topic. They would be expected to be able to use electronic presentation packages and perhaps organize the event, give handouts to the various attendees, and explain a particular topic. So it's quite a stressful event, but candidates may be asked to do oral presentations, or they could do in-basket tasks. Now these are simply tasks that are given to them that need attention, and perhaps need attention quite quickly, but there may be several tasks in their basket to be performed, and they need to prioritize which ones needs to be done next, which ones are most urgent, and go about dealing with it and trying to get a result to deal with the various issues that have been given to them. They'll also be assessed in terms of their analytical work, solving problems. And this could be anything from building a small bridge over a small stream, or solving a problem with the local shop, or it can be anything. It can be any sort of problem-solving activity, as well as analytical work in terms of written papers and psychological testing. So there might be practical examples of trying to solve a practical problem, and they might have to solve the problem without appropriate materials, so they have to improvise. Again, it's testing to see whether they can cope. And tasks related to individual problem solving. Sometimes when they're given a problem, the candidates, they may solve the problem individually, but then they might have subsequent tasks, how to get the raw materials to fix the problem, and how to negotiate for those raw materials from someone else, and there might be a trading relationship in the group to try and allocate the resources. It's problem solving. And they're being observed in this activity. There can be group discussions as well as problem solving. Sometimes the group may be asked to sit around and discuss certain issues, and then their opinions can be noted and observations can be made as to who led the discussion and who facilitated the discussion, who accommodated differences and came up with a better solution. So it's observation. It's trying to figure out who was best in that situation. And of course there may also be role play, where they're asked to imagine that they are the managing director of the company. The company is facing a problem because the market is turning against its product. How can they go about diversifying, and the company is also short of cash. So they're given a whole scenario, with a complicated scenario, and they might have to work their way through and try and find a solution, and then explain the solution to their colleagues and to the staff at the assessment centre, and argue for their solution and try and get it approved. It's a role play. It's an imagined situation, but it can be very important because it shows their ability to think about the problem and to imagine what they would do in that situation. Tasks given to candidates must be carefully developed and help bring out candidates' potential to succeed. So the work of the assessment centre must be professional. It must be based on qualified psychologists and trainers and HR experts who are brought together to form the various tasks and to do the assessments, so that the employer who will be paying for this activity, the employer will get back results that are reliable. So it's quite a professional approach to selection. So the team may have to analyse the level of individual or group competitiveness. Sometimes when you get candidates in a group, they're all looking for the same job, so they become highly competitive, highly manipulative, and they're trying to score points off their colleagues. Well, to what extent is that good or bad? You have to look at the context. You have to look at the exercise that's been undertaken. It could be a role exercise, a role play, as I said, or it could be some problem-solving exercise or teamwork or whatever. But it's important that to analyse the level of individual or group competitiveness, but also to identify leadership and cooperation skills within individuals, to see who naturally emerges as the leader, who the people turn to solve the problem, and how does that person get cooperation within the group. It's also an ability to be creative and bring new ideas to the table. Sometimes when a problem is given to a group at an assessment centre, the solution might require very innovative thinking, quite lateral thinking, thinking in different directions, and the solution is not always the obvious one. Sometimes the real solution could be covered up, it could be hidden, and has to be, in a sense, dug out. It has to be exposed and then applied. So within the group, there has to be some degree of creative thinking and lateral thinking, trying to solve the problem from different angles to see which one is most appropriate. It's important that the individuals in the groups complete tasks within given times. I put in brackets here presentations. Well, presentations are a good way of assessing this. If candidates are given 5 minutes to make a presentation, and some people prepare a lot of PowerPoint slides and are not able to complete the task on time, they go to 10 or 15 minutes. And they keep apologising because we're slightly overshot, but you really need to see the next slide. They've gone over the top. That's a bad presentation. The allocated time was 5 minutes, not 10 minutes or 15 minutes. So it's the ability for individuals and groups to work within the constraints given to them. If the constraint is a certain time limit, they must work to that time limit. The overall presentation skills needs to be looked at as well. Sometimes when people are trying to present their ideas, they have perhaps gone through some exercise, some problem-solving exercise. Now they need to present their findings. They need to present the findings in a logical fashion. And it needs to be done coolly and calmly and logically, so that the people attending the presentation can follow what's happened, can follow the solution, can understand it. There's a great clarity about it. And it's presented in a nice, neat, sequential fashion. So presentation skills are very important. That also runs over to the way the presentation skills are, in a sense, implemented. If they're going to use electronic presentation skills, so let's say PowerPoint or one of the other presentation packages, nobody's that interested in schoolboy animations or cartoons, perhaps. So the illustrations must be professional, and the slides must look good and must look professional. And there are lots of templates that can be used that could be downloaded and applied in this situation. So these are some of the activities that individuals and groups may face. Interviewers must have the ability to spot potential through observing tasks. It's absolutely vital that the assessment centre do the assessment. So on the assessment centre side, the staff there must be adequately qualified and experienced to spot who is best suited for this particular job. Interviewers must be trained to effectively perform the task. They must be able to observe, record information, analyse the information and evaluate behaviour. The staff at the assessment centre must be professional, they must be qualified, and they must be capable of working out who is best suited to the job that's on offer, who within the group is best. And that will be based on observations, the results of tests, activities, practical activities, written activities, presentation skills, leadership issues, group discussions. There'll be a whole series of tests and tasks facing the applicants. And the staff at the assessment centre must look at all of these and come to a balanced recommendation for the employer. The employer wants to know who to employ. They must be able to compare findings against the job description and person specification. The person specification that the HR department in the business worked out for the job talks about what the company would like to see in terms of presentation of the individual, the skills of the individual, the ability of the individual to apply him or herself to complete the task, working in teams, problem solving, and so on. And these will be written into the person specification, what the company want to see. And there is a job description as well. Now, the job of the assessment centre staff is to intermediate, look at the requirements of the job, look at what the person has written about him or herself in terms of the person specification, and add their observations. And their observations should be based on experience, qualifications, expertise, and they have perhaps stayed with these people for a day or two. So they have not got to know them, but they have got a feeling for who is best in that situation and make the recommendation to the employer. So assessment centres are becoming very popular. They're particularly popular in the graduate market, but they may be also used in middle management. Many areas of middle management may require attendance at assessment centres as well. They're not as forbidding as it may sound. An assessment centre sounds like almost it's a punishment centre. It's not. It's a pleasant experience in many respects. The staff there are friendly, and no one's made to feel that they're inadequate in any way. People deal with people as humans, and humans make mistakes, and the person who's offered the job in the end may have failed a couple of the tests, because humans do fail tests from time to time. But it's the overall performance, the overall suitability of the person that's going to be looked at. Their position in the group, their problem solving, and their general demeanour and their orientation towards the required job. That's what's been assessed, and based on the expertise of the centre, of the staff at the centre, that recommendation can go to the employer. So important areas in the selection process, important areas of study. Assessment centres are becoming more and more popular, and they're likely to contain more and more of the material that will be studied in the context of selection as we move into the future. That's all I'm going to deal with in this session, so we're going to leave this one there, leave it at that, and say thank you for watching.